The first step to a beautiful bead is the welder, and we are all about stick welders for this video. These two things will help you pick out a machine, and really the second one doesn't even matter, so hear me out. First, what's the amperage of the machine? So higher amperage gets you a thicker material that you can weld. Every single welder I've seen has a number in the name. We've got the AC 220, you know, the ESOB 180, and that is always the max amperage the machine can output. So this little Arc 125, the max thickness is probably only about an eighth, maybe 3/16 max. And a 225 can easily do 3/8 inch thick. To go along with amperage, you'll notice that if a machine has about 140 or below in the number, it will definitely be a 120 volt machine. Versus the tanks, you already know these are coming with 230 volt plugs. Yes, you can spend more money and get something with more features, and that has the ability to run off of either 230 or 120 volts. On to the second item, whether the machine is AC, AC-DC, or DC only. We're talking about the actual type of power, AC, alternating current. These two big honking machines out there, those are AC output. So they take AC input, they transform it. What that transformer does is actually take that power and it drops the voltage, raises the amperage, but it still kicks it out as that same AC power. Versus DC, direct current, it just uses inverter technology to do that process. And so then you take that AC power and does that exact same thing where it drops the voltage, raises the amperage, but then it outputs in DC or that straight direct current. There are very slight differences between how they actually weld. And as a beginner, I guarantee you will not be able to tell those differences, so don't get hung up on the actual polarity. I have gotten some of my very best welds out of those super ancient Tombstone Buzz box. Do you know why they call it a tombstone? It looks like a tombstone. You want to know why I call it a buzz box? It's a freaking loud buzz box. If you find one of these, pick it up just because they will seriously outlast a cockroach and a nuke. They are super basic. All you've got pretty much is an on-off switch and then something to select your amperage with, and that's it. So what to get then? Well, first of all, these things are ginormous. They'll throw your back out. So the AC type machines, those are going to be ones that stay in your garage. It's going to be there for its entire life. That's probably why you found one in the corner of your grandpa's shop. Or go with a smaller DC welder, one that you can just throw in the back of the truck really easily, also saves on space. Downside to these is, yes, there's more electronics, so they probably will not last as long. And I'll tell you right now, for stick welding, go out and pick up any welder that fits within your budget. Except this guy. I did a video on it a couple years back, and really, I would stay away from these little handheld machines. Get some gloves and an auto darkening helmet. Save your eyes. And a lot of people don't know, but welding throws off UV rays. So if you're going short sleeve, make sure you're just doing a couple little small welds, nothing major or for a long time, or else you'll get a sunburn. Don't ask me how I know. Don't get overwhelmed with rods. There are a ton of them out there, but there are really only two things you need to know with rods. The first, they come in different size diameters. They got a small 1/16 of an inch, a very common 3/32, which these three are, and then an 1/8 inch. Now, there's obviously a lot more. The thicker the rod, the thicker the material you're doing, you're also running that higher amperage. So if you picked up a smaller amperage machine, you're gonna be sticking with these 3/32 or a 1/16 inch size rod. And the second is the type of flux or the composition that coats the rods. This is what gives us those different colors. Now, if you're just starting out, you just want to stick two pieces of metal together, so go with a very common like 6011, 6013, or 7018. And a great general purpose all around rod is a 3/32, 7018. Every stick machine is going to come with a ground clamp. Now I can clamp this to my workpiece because this is all metal, so that electricity can flow through the metal table and then to my workpiece, and then in a stinger or an electro holder. This is where you actually put the rod. Now there's always going to be a couple grooves in here. It's totally a personal preference on if you like it angled up, down, straight up, whatever you want, doesn't matter. This is purely a comfort type deal. I typically will just go straight out at a 90. Now, actually striking and getting that arc stabilized, it does take a little practice. Here's what I do. You know, lots of people, and for many years I said you strike it like a match, and you kind of do. It's more of like you tap it and you move it just ever so slightly. You don't really strike it with the full stroke, or else the arc's going to be too big and then you'll lose it. So as soon as the tip of that rod touches the metal, you're going to create an arc. Now, this isn't plugged in, so I can actually do this and show you before we actually turn on the machine and go with it. What I do is, though, I actually do just give it a little tap and you bring it towards you, or whatever direction you are going to be going. And then once you get it going, you're going to actually move it back ever so slightly. That will help you become a pro, because that will cover up that strike mark, which is not good if you're out doing in the pipeline or doing something high precision. And you will notice one of two things: that you actually can't strike an arc at all, or your rod actually gets stuck to the metal. So the mistake number one that everybody makes is your amperage is too low. Now, don't go cranking it up a ton, just go up a little bit. Now, the rods actually have the general idea of the amperage that it should be ran on. It also tells you whether it should be ran on AC or DC. So just verify on which machine you have and that the rods you got were that type, and just up it ever so slightly, and you'll be surprised. Just that little extra amperage does make a huge difference. So you got the arc going, you made the bead, but it turned out horrible. Well, let's actually take a step back to creating that arc, and here's my number one tip for you. Hold the rod in the middle. Just with how long it is, it gets a little shaky at the end. So stabilize it by holding it, and that helps you out so much to strike the arc. And you're going to keep your hand there until part of the rod gets used up. Then you can release, and that will help stabilize and give you control, and you'll notice a huge difference in how that weld looks and turns out. So you're doing all that and you're still just not getting that pretty bead? Well, here's another thing. We got to think about the arc length. That is how far the rod tip is from the workpiece. If you're out too far, then you got an unstable arc. If you're in too far, then you're just digging into your workpiece and you're not really creating a good weld. So keep the arc length about the diameter of your rod. So this is a 3/32. You're not going to sit there and measure what a 3/32 is. You'll notice as it starts getting further away, that unstable arc. So then you just know you got to bring it back in a bit. And after that, it's just a whole bunch of practice. The slag peel, it's so satisfying. Some people think that's what determines it has a good weld, and it has really nothing to do with it. You get a good slag depending on the flux that's on it. So those 6013, 6011, they actually don't produce a good slag over it. It protects it, it just doesn't chip away nearly as easy or peel away nearly as easy as a 7014 or a 7018. Has nothing to do with the weld strength. We'll see you next time.